Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another session of filmmakers and their films with Dr. M.K. Raghavendran. Today, we are talking about a really interesting yet controversial Dutch writer and director, Paul Verhoeven, who is responsible for making films like Turkish Delight, Robocop, Hollow Man, and I'm sure we've all seen Basic Instinct. Over to you, sir.
Now, I just want to know how many of you in this class have paid attention to Paul Verhoeven as a director before my class or before I put up this thing? Has anybody paid attention to him? Have you paid attention to him?
Not me, no.
Not
I
you?
watched all his films last week.
Okay, okay, all right. I mean, the other people paid attention to his film? I don't know. Because one thing I okay, the point is, Verhoeven is unlike the other directors I've dealt with so far. He's shamelessly commercial. Okay, he uses sex and violence in a big way, and unlike Buñuel or Kubrick or Altman, about whom reams have been written, you won't find much writing, much criticism of Verhoeven at all, except it's a journalistic kind and usually negative. I mean, they either appreciate his films in some way, positive in some way, or it can also be some of his films that were dealt with very negatively. But largely from the journalistic point of view, which is it's a celebration of him as a filmmaker and that sort of thing. Okay, he's not been written about extensively, and when written about, it's largely newspaper reviews and that sort of thing, right? Okay, magazines, newspaper reviews, not as an academic, hardly ever as an academic from the academic point of view. Okay, now he's Dutch. Verhoeven is originally Dutch, and he began his career with a couple of Dutch movies, Turkish Delight and Soldier of Orange. Did you see Turkish Delight?
Yes, I did.
And what did you? I mean, you had a what was your response to it? Positive, negative? What was it generally? Or
I
you?
happened to go through your PPT before I watched the film.
Okay,
So
okay, all
I
right.
had a complete different, because the PPT was portraying him as in a very like, I read sex and violence and I went with that mind. And it
Yeah,
did start off that way. And the very first scene,
yeah, yeah.
I,
It's
I was
difficult. Yeah,
expecting everything, like I was expecting the film to go that way
yeah,
throughout.
yeah,
Apparently, it didn't go that way, but
yeah.
mixed response actually.
Okay. Now the point is, see, Verhoeven is an outsider in Hollywood and European outsider in Hollywood, and there is a certain, for example, what is he doing with American audiences? What is he doing? I mean, if you look at how American directors, European directors have dealt with America, if you've seen Herzog, right? Their approach to Hollywood is very different, right? By Herzog, largely satirical. I don't know if you've seen this. What is this? Okay. Herzog, largely satirical. If you've seen her Klozek, if you've seen a Bad Lieutenant, I think Port of Call New Orleans or something, is very satirical. Usually, people, the outsiders who come to America, deal with it in satirically, somewhat in a strange way. Have you heard of this guy? This chap. What's his name? Verhoeven has established himself as a crowd puller, largely through his use of sex and violence. And his films has had hits like Robocop, Basic Instinct, okay, the Total Recall, Starship Troopers, Showgirls got very bad press. It was shown as extremely vulgar. The question is whether his films are vulgar or they're basically essays on the vulgarity of the milieu, the issue which can be probed. All right. Now the thing is, if you look at some other outsiders in Hollywood, it would make some sense to compare him to somebody like Roland Emmerich. Have you heard of Roland Emmerich? Any of you heard of Roland Emmerich? Have you seen this guy's films, Roland Emmerich? You would have seen his movies. You would have paid attention to him. I'll say this: Independence Day, The Patriot. Everybody would have seen these movies, right? Independence Day.
Word of peace,
You
yes.
haven't, you haven't seen it? Okay. I mean, this alien invasion film
Yeah.
and Independence Day, Patriot about the American War of Independence is unabashedly, is patriotic in some sense. It's really singular because Roland Emmerich, okay, is this thing of he comes from a country, okay, the only country in the world in which patriotism is taboo. What would that country be, and why? Can anybody answer this question?
Is America?
Germany.
Germany.
Germany, right?
Okay, right, right.
Why is patriotism taboo in Germany? because it's immediately linked to the Nazi thing, right?
Yes.
So this nationalism is a big issue in Germany. If you're a nationalist, you're in trouble, right? In Germany. In fact, after the football triumph and all that, there was a burst of German nationalism. It worried for the political establishment quite a bit that there was a resurgence of nationalism of some sort. Now, the thing is about Roland Emmerich is he makes patriotic films in America, right? It's very interesting that his own country patriotism is taboo, so he comes to America and makes these ridiculously patriotic films. Something like, I mean, it's hilarious actually watching Mel Gibson in Patriot or watching Independence Day. I mean, I watched Independence Day several times. Okay, I find it I become ludicrous actually. The level of the kind of patriotic discourse, the patriotic rhetoric which is there in that film. But in Emmerich's case, he doesn't put in things. He's simply being insincere, right? He's being insincere and he's playing to the gallery. He's not a satirist like what's his name, Verhoeven, right? Verhoeven is very different because what he's doing is he's putting in stuff there and he's using all these sentiments which would work in America and also making fun of the public in some way, making fun of the audience in some way. Okay. Now there is, in fact, if you look at Verhoeven's films, he seems to be poking fun at the audience with a straight face. This is basically what he seems to be doing. Essentially a satirist, okay? So now I will go to his first Dutch films to figure out what it's all about, right? The next slide. So the point is, the Turkish Delight is based on a novel. It's based on a novel. It's so soaked in explicit sex that even repeating some of the lines in that thing, I can't even repeat the lines on a platform like this, right? It's so embarrassing. It is, but the point is, this novel, which is soaking in explicit sex, is on a school syllabus in Netherlands, right? They've made a musical out of it. It seems to be that it's taken quite easily in Netherlands. It won't be accepted anywhere else in the world. You can't imagine something that comes the kind of lines that are spoken in the world. Some of the things which are shown in the film. I mean, it's completely over the top in terms of sex, not violent sex in this film, right? So the point is, what is the reason? No, the thing is that Amsterdam and Netherlands is one of the most permissive countries in the world, right? And it's not only now. It has gone on from the time of say 200, 300 years from the time of the golden age of Rembrandt, Hals, this guy, what's his name, Bruegel, all these, okay, I think 17th century or so. And I think in Pulp Fiction, you've seen Pulp Fiction, there is this thing where Amsterdam, the hash bars in Amsterdam, okay, I think Vincent Vega and Jules, I think they have a discussion on the hash bars. What is that thing he says? He says, what do they call a quarter pound of cheese? What do they call hamburger and all, and that sort of thing, and how you can buy, hash on the counter in many restaurants and all that. But the point is that Amsterdam and Holland have been, very prosperous, and it's huge amounts of drunkenness, and it's been going on for God knows how long, as I said, from the time of Rembrandt, so right from that thing. The reason is Vermeer, Rembrandt. In fact, John Berger, in his ways of seeing, he describes a painting by Frans Hals, who's a basic portrait painter, when he's painting rich people in a club, members of a club, a group portrait kind of thing. One of them you can see from his face that he's drunk. So this kind of thing is there, that the thing of Holland, it seems to have been there, this right from the, I think, 1600 something, 1600, 1700, it's been going along like this, okay? So the reason is, religion is there, is divided among several sects, Catholicism, Protestantism and all that. It's not oppressive as in other parts of Europe because it's different kinds of Christianity have existed together. And the thing is, in the war, when Belgium fell, when Antwerp fell, a lot of the people moved. I think the 30 Years' War or so, they moved to Amsterdam. Amsterdam attracted the greatest talents, the artisans and all that, the merchants. So it was hugely prosperous. Okay, but what happened was it afforded the young a huge amount of leisure, and when they got a huge amount of leisure, the young, the drinking and that sort of thing, right? So it became a national pastime, drinking, and there was virtually, I mean, it's There's not much crime. It's in every other way, but this amount of drinking is very huge. Taking a pot is a huge issue. Okay, World War II, it was neutral. I think you should see Soldier of Orange of wherever. It's a very interesting film. I didn't recommend that too many. I didn't want to give you. Hitler overran Holland in 4 days or 4 days flat. Okay. Now the point is that Turkish delight is basically dealing with this kind of hedonistic society, right? The point is there seems to be there is no conservative. You see, like normally what happens is in America or India or whatever, if there is this amount of hedonism practiced by a portion of the general public, by the youth or some such thing, there's antagonism, there is hostility to that, and the result is conflict happens. If you see Turkish delight, you realize that there's no evidence of that kind of hostility at all, right? It's basically I mean so where is the opposition to come from? Okay, where is the opposition to come from? It seems to be wallowing in this kind of stuff, and it has been going on for 300, 400, 300 years or so. So it's quite a different thing, right? Now, Turkish delight begins with a young sculptor, Eric Wonk, who's staying in a filthy studio. He's at a disarray. He's naked. And the point is that I mean, his wife has left him, and therefore he's just gone off. He's gone off the handle, and he's going around having casual sex with left and right, and then he doesn't know what to do. That sort of thing. He's in some kind of great despair, and he does this by overindulging himself in everything, right? So then there's the flashback and Eric Wong and Olga, how they met and that sort of thing goes. And they seem to be, Olga is very young, I think she's underage or so. They met at some particular thing, and then he got so physical with her in the car that they had an accident. But the point is, he pursues her, the parents are rich, they own a store, and but their objections are not serious. In fact, when the mother takes exception to this Wonk and that you got your two thing, he says, I'll marry her and all that. In no time at all, that opposition collapses and it becomes very playful, right? The whole thing becomes playful. But the point is, the interesting thing is, that throughout the film, okay, there is this thing of love, eroticism on one side and death on the other side. Okay, for example, I mean, this kind of thing would be unimaginable in any kind of thing. Her mother has had a breast cancer also, and she's had a mastectomy. There's a scene where he's making fun of her by putting, a balloon or something in her bra or some such thing. That sort of thing. You can't imagine, this kind of stuff, coming from any other country, from America, from any other country, right? The question is, another scene when she's gone to the bathroom and she finds, she thinks there's blood in her stools or whatever, but it turns out to be like yesterday's beetroot or something. So the question is, there's always this thing of defecation, of urination, seen alongside with eroticism of some sort. Now the question is, we look at this, it's very scatological. That this father, for instance, he's got some kind of ailment. He can't urinate properly. There is some tube or something, and the urine is collecting in some bottle or something under the bed. But the point is, even when that is happening, this Eric and Olga are having sex in the next room. That combination of eroticism on one hand, on the other side you have this thing of death and disease, and if you look at the kind of, I just discovered a painting by Rembrandt. Okay, can you imagine Rembrandt? You're familiar with this. I found this thing of a woman urinating, a picture of a drawing of a woman urinating. So you can't imagine, what kind of system is this? What kind of artistic thing is it? But this kind of thing is a subject for art, no? So, but you look at this. You look at the Dutch painting, you will find Bruegel. Again, Hieronymus Bosch. I don't know how many of you have heard of Hieronymus Bosch. Has anybody heard of Hieronymus Bosch? Garden of the Earthly Delights and that kind of thing, right? So the question is, you look at it, you will find that there's a lot of this kind of thing of death there. It's a horror, the paintings are horrific. So you could say, that the more you hobnob with the earthly pleasures and that sort of thing, with hedonism and all that, there seems to be this overlying thing of death all the time. Okay, it's this thing of death. It's as if the more you enjoy yourself in this way, the more the specter of death is haunting you in some way. You look at Hieronymus Bosch, one of the most ghastliest pictures ever done in Dutch. You look at Bruegel, I think, Country Dance. Sorry?
What's the name again, sir?
Hieronymus Bosch. Hieronymus. Hieronymus Bosch. Bosch. You've seen this thing? Have you seen this TV serial called Bosch?
No.
You familiar with it? No? His name is also Hieronymus Bosch. So, I mean, he's a policeman. His name is Hieronymus Bosch. So, Hieronymus Bosch is one of the early Dutch painters. Bruegel, Brueghel. Bruegel. Have you heard of Bruegel?
No, sorry.
Theater Bruegel. You should try these two. Look at Bruegel's, I think, what is Bruegel's painting? Triumph of Death is, Bruegel's is Triumph of Death. Again, okay, here's also Dutch. So you look at their paintings, you will find this entire thing of people, the fleeting thing of life, which is always because of the hovering thing of death. Okay, it's excessive in the paintings of these two. Okay, Moore and Bosch. Now the point is, okay, now when you go up in this movie, what happens is he finds her kissing some other man in a party and he gets angry, gets jealous, so then they break up and he responds by, behaving vulgarly in the party, he vomits all over the place and they have a breakup and she goes off, Olga goes off with an American guy, marries an American. That marriage breaks up and she comes back, okay, and after that, he finds her in a parent's house and he rapes her when she's sleeping. I mean, this sort of thing, right? He just can't control his desire or whatever, this sort of thing. So this is what he does. But the point is, immediately after that, she starts showing some symptoms of something else, and it turns out she has a brain tumor, right? She has a brain tumor, and her head is shaved, and that little square in her skull is cut out. He gives her a red wig, and then at the end of it, she dies after that. Okay, then he takes that wig and he throws it in a garbage dump and pushes off. That the film ends like that. So the question is, it looks actually like it's erotic. It's not erotic at all. It's actually nihilistic. It's a thing of that nothing is worthwhile. Pleasure is not. It's actually an extremely nihilistic version of this of sex and this kind of stuff over this kind of thing. Even for example, in an early part of the movie, when this Eric is asked to given a commission to do a sculpture, he does this thing of a sculpture of Lazarus. Okay, Lazarus was raised from the dead 4 days after his death by Jesus Christ. But when Eric does this Lazarus thing, he shows worms in Lazarus, the live man covered with worms because he's been rotting for 4 days before Christ brings him back to life, right? So the question is this film is full of things of images of death. It's basically a thing of excess of thing at the same time this thing of all those of defecation, of urination, of death and this and that and decay. After all, there's always a connection between defecation and death because defecation something living is eaten and that becomes that sort of thing becomes complete waste matter and that sort of thing. So dead body is waste matter in that sense, right? So this is it's a very interesting thing. This is what I make of this movie. All right. Now you go to the next slide. I don't know if all you must have seen it. I think this group by and large has been watching all the movies. So this movie is extremely it's disturbing in some sense because of the things which happen in the movie. But basically, it's more about death than about love. Okay, so that is the basic thing. So when you come to America, see, it made a splash. It's supposed to be the most popular movie ever made in Holland, which won this film, Turkish Delight. But when he came to America, it is not a very well-known film because Dutch is not a language spoken by many people. It's spoken by very few people, right? So the question is that he was not very well known. That movie, for example, has been shown in film festivals now and then, but not many people know about this. Have any of you heard of this Turkish Delight? I mean, who would know? Did you know about Dutch cinema at all? I don't think it has any presence at all. Portuguese, not much. Dutch, not much. Belgium, I think there are Dardenne brothers also. By and large, not very well known. When he came to America, he came basically to a prudish society. America, for all its things, is a prudish society where this kind of thing in sex and violence is frowned upon. But at the same time, there is some lascivious interest in it. Okay, so he started making movies, violent movies, for American audiences. But right at the beginning, you can see that that his approach to that is very different from from the kind of things that other people, other purveyors of sex and violence do in American cinema. Okay, for example, Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct. The one he did was Basic Instinct. If you look at these two movies, both of them sound similar, right? The titles. You look at Fatal Attraction, it is by some other guy. You look at the kind of thing in that film, and you look at this film, and they're completely different. There's no connection at all. All right, both are, I mean, Fatal Attraction no, Basic Instinct was a big hit. Did I mention it's Basic Instinct? I don't know. Now you come to his very first movie, first successful movie was RoboCop, right? RoboCop is a satirical film. Have you seen RoboCop? Have you seen it before? No.
Yeah.
You seen it before? Never. Okay.
This was the first time I was
First time. See, this time it's been remade many times. RoboCop 2, RoboCop 3, RoboCop 4 or some such thing. And it's been remade. RoboCop 1 has been remade. But always without humor. It's not funny. This is very funny. RoboCop 1 is very funny, right? So what he does in RoboCop 1, the point here is, see, if you talk about what kind of satire Verhoeven is coming up with, it is not explicit satire. It is not the kind of satire that Kubrick does. It's not the kind of satire that Altman did. Okay, Altman and Kubrick. It's a kind of RoboCop. Is a kind of parody, you could say, of Death Wish. I don't know if you've heard of Death Wish. It's this chap's Charles Bronson film about a vigilante killer who goes here. This is actually about a dead man. I don't know what this dead man being brought back to life being made into some kind of, because around the same time there was this thing with Jean-Claude Van Damme. I forget what is that movie. It's called I forget that, a series of movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme where he's a dead man brought back to life who becomes, I think, Universal Soldier. Universal Soldier. I don't know exactly what that Universal Soldier came around the same time. That's dead serious, made by somebody else. This is not dead serious at all. So here the point is that in RoboCop, a company which is actually into real estate is actually taking over the police force in some sense. It is running the police force as a mercenary thing. So it's the police force has been handed over to this private agency, private company to run. Okay, this is the basic thing. And they've got a thing here, right? They've got a slogan. They're taking parts of the slummy area of the city and constructing, putting up what's it called? I think apartments or some such thing, luxury apartments there. And they've got a slogan there which says, "The future has a silver lining." Now, what does that mean? Future has a silver lining. Okay. What is it which has a silver lining? Clouds, right? Every cloud has a silver lining. So basically, they're saying that everything is clouded over. Okay, and the world they're discussing. See, one of the important things about what Verhoeven did, unlike many others, is to deal with America largely through this thing of the media, filtered through the media, right? You have TV shows, you have newspaper reports, so everything is filtered through the TV, billboards, and that sort of thing. Okay, in RoboCop, okay, children are playing some game. It's called Nukem. Okay, the game is called Nukem. It ends with a mushroom cloud coming up. Then you've got another thing. Okay, then you've got a news item that a satellite mistakenly sent a laser beam to Santa Barbara, killed 113 people, including 2 ex-presidents. I mean, this kind of stuff, right? Okay, a surgeon comes on the thing and endorses a Yamaha heart. That is the time when Japan was doing very well. So Yamaha heart is the best possible heart and that kind of thing. Okay, so all these are satirical things using advertisements or something. So that's it was like that, right? So the Japan was booming. So the question is once again, okay, Star Wars program. This Reagan era was the Star Wars program. Then there's another case where the president is inaugurating, or the vice president is inaugurating some facility somewhere in some satellite or so. Suddenly there's weightlessness and you have the vice president floating in the air and that sort of thing. Okay, it's all as a reportage, newspaper reportage or TV reportage, but basically he's making fun of all this, right? He's making fun of the Reagan era. It's probably the sharpest satire is of the Reagan era, but at the same time, he's playing up it's playing up the violence, it's playing up the action, he's doing that. So it can be seen as an action film, or it can be seen, like, for example, Kubrick stuff cannot be seen as action cinema. His war movies cannot be seen as action cinema. They are basically satire, and the thing to action is always negative, right? Even something like Clockwork Orange, which is not one of my favorites. In Clockwork Orange, there is no way you can sort of rejoice in the violence. Here he allows you to rejoice in the violence. So when he kills the villain, that kind of participation in the violence is there. So he's allowing you on one hand to make fun. On one hand, he's making fun of it. On the other side, he's also allowing you to exult in the violence. Okay, that he does. So that's what makes his films unlike, he won't be, he's not the kind of filmmaker who will win awards anywhere. No, I mean, Cannes will not allow a Verhoeven film, at least not his, not his American movie. They would allow that at all. It's a different kind of stuff, okay? So another important thing in the film is this thing called OCP. I don't know the name of it's called OCP, right? Okay, that OCP is the name of the organization which is setting up, which is real estate developer is OCP. But the point is, an OCP begins as the villain, but gradually the thing shifts to now somebody else, an individual executive in the thing, and finally OCP remains in charge of what it is doing. This man is killed, right? So the question is, he quietly shifted the emphasis from the company to the executive, which means when the executive is killed, the company goes on. So which means that it's not a happy ending at all in some way. Though he diverts the attention in some way so that it looks like a happy ending, it doesn't work like that at all. Okay. That's also an interesting thing. Okay. Now, this I won't say anything more about the film. You would have got some sense of the film, and there's that ghastly, that robot which comes there, and then the point is that robot makes it threatening. His voice is threatening. It's got a guttural voice. It speaks like that. Hands up or something. It says that, but actually, when it can't control, it can't be controlled. But the point is, when it's on its back or something, it can't get up, and then it makes the same guttural, threatening sound. But it's like a cockroach in the air. Okay, it makes that sort of thing. It can't climb downstairs. It's got, its toes are not okay to climb downstairs. So the question is, he's making fun of technology. At the same time, he's trying to make it very threatening. So this kind of double thing is doing. Okay. Now another film, I don't know if you saw this. Okay, this other film which is also very interesting is Total Recall. I'm not very happy with Total Recall, but it got a terrific bit in this travel agent thing. Did you remember that scene in the travel agent? He goes, I don't know. You didn't see the film, okay? In this, let me explain this thing. This guy, what's his name, Schwarzenegger, wants to take a holiday. He wants to go to the planet Mars, right? Now the point is, he can't afford to go on a holiday. Okay, so he goes to this travel agent. It's a science fiction story. The travel agent says, we cannot send you on a trip to Mars. It's too expensive. It will work out too much. We'll give you something better than that for your budget. We will implant the memory of a holiday in your mind. Okay. So he'll give you a memory implant of a holiday. Okay. He'll give you a memory implant of a holiday, and you will have the memory of a pleasant holiday. Right? That's not all. He says, that's not all. It's not the only thing. Okay. He asks the question, what is the one thing that always remains the same regarding what holiday you go on, wherever you go, right? What is the question? Can you tell me, Madhu, you haven't seen it. So tell me, what is the thing? The thing which remains the same is you. Okay? You will remain the same, whether you go on a holiday to the South Pacific or you go to the Himalayas or go anywhere. Madhu will always remain Madhu. Okay? So he says, we'll do this. You can also alter your personality. You can go as a playboy, you can go as a millionaire, you can go as a secret agent, and we'll organize this memory in such a way that you will save the planet and a blonde woman will win the blonde woman. Okay, this is the offer to you. This kind of holiday is called an ego trip. Okay.
Actually advertised as an ego trip?
It's called, he says this is called an ego trip. Okay. Whereas you take a holiday from yourself, you go as something other than yourself. I will go as a secret agent, I will go as a millionaire, I will go as a playboy and that sort of thing. Okay. That's a hilarious bit, about the entire thing of what holiday. What happens in the film is that this chap, even before they given him the injection, which is the memory implant, okay, he starts acting like he wants to go as a secret agent. He ends up actually becoming a secret agent even before he has had this memory implant. And the reason is actually he was a secret agent whose memory has been erased. I think you should see this movie, okay? I mean, his memory has been erased, so what comes to the surface is his real memory of a secret agent. Of course, the movie, again, what happens is with Verhoeven is that he's playing so much the action thing that the last bit of it is all action, right? So the question is, this satirical element disappears altogether. There's only the action bit. But the point is, it's got these great action bits. It's also full of advertisement. Yeah, mega full of that. Yeah, everywhere is advertisement. In fact, everything is filtered through advertisements, through TV shows, through that sort of thing, right? That's his basic thing. He sees. I mean, it seems to be a very sophisticated way because he doesn't know America except through through text, these
Yeah.
media things. So the question is, he uses the media. When he dumps the media, doesn't use the media, the films are not so good. I mean, from the last one, I don't like his last film at all. Okay, last film in America. Okay, this is the thing, right? So the question is, this is what he does. Then we go to the next slide. Now, Starship Troopers is a very interesting film. How many of you have seen Starship Troopers? I don't know. I avoided anybody else seeing Starship Troopers. I hope all of you have seen this movie. I mean, I couldn't. Sorry.
It was in the recommendation list.
Yeah, it was there. The point is, this movie, I avoided seeing this movie for God knows how long. I couldn't bear the little bits I used to see those insect creatures, right? I mean, excessive violence, people's legs being eaten up. I mean, it's so much, right? There's so much violence in Starship Troopers, it's difficult to take unless you watch from the beginning and you see the whole thing is it's a joke, okay? The whole film is a joke, okay? Now, is it science fiction at all? Okay. Now, in Starship Troopers is based on a very right-wing kind of novel by some guy called Heinlein. But here it's set in it's a World Federation, right? Buenos Aires is the place. These people are people there. I mean, they are students in Buenos Aires. The name is Rico. The other, I forget what her name is. But they're basically being taught. But the point is, he uses American football. He doesn't use soccer, which will be played in Buenos Aires. So all the things that the accents are American. And I don't know if you saw that, Rico draws her. Okay. If you look at the features of these two, the features are straight out of these romantic comics. Have you seen romantic comics? True Love and that sort of thing. There are these romantic comics with the illustrations. The features or clean cut features and all that. Okay. That kind of thing is straight out of romantic comics. And he's drawing it to give the. So the question is, he's telling you that these two are basically characters out of romantic comics, right? That's what he's telling you, all right? So the point is, the thing is, the military mobilization is taking place. It's again a very violent environment. People are executed, murderers are executed aired on television channels, their executions. People are, the important thing is that humankind is fighting some bugs, in insect planet somewhere in another part of the thing, and the insects and human beings are coming into conflict. Again, here it's because of human beings exploring that part of the galaxy that this conflict has arisen. Those insects did not come. Okay, here. So the point is, they've got an asteroid belt there, and the insects somehow have got the means to divert these asteroids wherever they want and manipulate those asteroids as weapons. Okay, this is the basic thing. Okay, so the question is that all these people are being, shall we say, persuaded to become, to join the military of the Federation, okay, and go to war. So the question is, as soon as this is over, he comes from a rich family. Rico comes from a rich family. That girl he's in love with, Carmen, I think, yeah, Carmen. She's also, I mean, the question is, both of them want to join because that teacher who inspired them. And the thing is, it's very interesting here, okay? When they join, when they enlist, there's a guy who's signing them on. He says, I am the person, what is called the army. Welcome to the military. The military made me what I am, and he's got one arm missing or one leg missing. Okay. So the question is,
it's almost everywhere.
Sorry?
There's a lot of social commentary
like that. Hilarious. Okay. The question is, I mean, you have to catch on to the fact that he's done all dead serious. He will never make you laugh. He will never, it's all done dead serious. But the point is this, that unless you catch on to what he's doing, he's making fun of all this, right? So the question is, this humankind he's talking about are basically American. In every way, they're American. So their names are. So the question is, he's not really talking about humankind versus thing. And then there are some, TV reportage of patriotic fervor, little boy, the way they manipulate things. I'm going to fight the thing. I'm going to go. And the little boy says, I'm going to go. Then everybody laughs. Okay. That cute stuff. I mean, this, how this enrollment and then enlistment advertisements go along in the military and all that, right? So all that kind of things making fun of. And the UN, there's a speech going on. Once and for all, we have to determine, okay, whether human life or insect life is going to dominate the universe or something, right? So it's again, these very, these great speeches being made by, these politicians, representatives of the powers, and you an ambassador. And then, as he wants to go back, Rico wants to go back because there's a fight, something happens, he loses something. He wants to go back, but an asteroid is sent to Buenos Aires, and everybody in Buenos Aires is killed, including his family. Okay. At that particular time, everybody in the world is aghast that this great capital. See, again, like you can't do this sort of stuff, for an American city. Not easy to do it. Okay. You can't show, New York was destroyed, but it's not something which will be tolerated, right? So you do Buenos Aires in some way. It's much easier that way. People, I mean, the Argentines don't constitute a very large public in terms of film rights. Okay. So the question is that children, okay, are lending their might to the human cause by stamping on cockroaches in the road. You saw that? So
Disgusting movie.
so again, cockroaches, okay. We teach the insects a lesson and it's stamping on. No, this kind of stuff cannot be seen seriously, okay. It cannot be seen except as satire, okay. He's talking about xenophobia. He's not talking about xenophobia in the sense of, that these cockroaches are there. I mean, you have to read between the lines. This is again the TV reportage, it is being, that sort of thing, right? No, you will not, I mean, this is, but at the same time, right, it's done absolutely, an absolutely straight face. So it's possible for people who relish, adventure movies and all that, not to find this funny, okay? It can be seen as funny, it need not be seen as funny, it depends on that. So he's playing double that thing he's playing, okay? And then, so children, this firearms, TV channels, executions, all this, okay. So the human life or insect life will dominate the galaxy. Army is what I meant. So the question is, he's doing this kind of constantly this kind of thing. Now the important thing here is, and he's got a person, Colonel Carl, is in black uniform, okay. It's in black uniform, the SS. It's actually the SS dress. The Carl, the intelligence officer, one of their classmates. He actually put in an SS there, the Nazi uniform. Carl, the guy who's a senior colonel, he becomes colonel when this man is still a sergeant or something, right? Or a lieutenant or so. There's a guy who comes in, one of their classmates. He gets high rank and all that, he goes into intelligence.
Goes in the intelligence.
Intelligence, right? Carl, yeah, that's right, yeah, okay. So he's dressed actually in German SS costume, black thing and all that, big cap and all that. He puts that also in. So the point is nobody notices it, okay, it just gets through. But the important thing here is, when they go to Klendatu, okay, when they go to Klendatu, which is that thing where the monstrous bugs are there, and those bugs are sending missiles, right, to attack, to hit these spaceships, they're sending missiles. And when they go to Klendatu, they're going around quietly and they're looking and they find these missiles are coming from the rear ends of these bugs. I mean, imagine this, right? A bug which is letting out a missile, I would call it a weapon of mass destruction, right? This is basically what, I mean, this movie came before the Iraq War, okay? But the point is this, America has always gone around claiming that there is enemies, okay, have got all kinds of lethal weapons, right? So here what they're doing is they're saying that this primitive species is making missiles from its rear end, and that, that missile which comes from the rear end of an insect is going to destroy spaceships. It's going to go into orbit and, I mean, this is basically like the claim that Bush made with regard to Saddam, right? It's basically the same thing, okay? So the important thing here, and it's done dead serious. Nobody asks, what is this now? The ludicrous thing of a bug, a huge insect, I mean, a massive insect, which is lower, I mean, lifting up its behind and then emitting a missile to go and attack a spaceship which is going along, orbiting the planet or something. I mean, this is as ridiculous. As Americans claiming that weapons of mass destruction never proved. And at the time, nobody really questioned that, seriously enough. Nobody questioned that. Everybody, you and I knew there were no weapons of mass destruction, but nobody in America seemed to, they seemed to believe it all along. So basically he's making fun of this whole thing. I think, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, these are the guys, which America deals with, which is why finally that brain bug comes along, that brain bug, people taking selfies or something with the brain bug, okay? The brain bug, remember that the brain bug comes along and the man says, let me see what it is thinking. It is afraid, he says, okay, the brain, this is actually very much like, Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi, okay, falling into the hands of the rebels, okay, falling into the hands of the rebels, being executed in public or being humiliated or some such thing. It's exactly like that. Of course, this is before Saddam Hussein, but yeah, it's before that. But the question is, when the first Iraq war took place, after the first Iraq war, that is Middle Eastern, what is it called? What war? I don't know. The Middle Eastern war. It's after that war, but before the Iraq war, right? The first one when the Kuwait thing took place, right? So the point is, that brain bug can be seen as the leader of the enemy who's been caught, and all of them are taking pictures of that person. Is going to be brutally, it's going to be vivisected or something, still alive, to figure out how his mind works or some such thing. I mean, it's the brutality of it shown with good cheer, that sort of thing, he's able to do that. I found that, that entire, thing of, is gloating, this thing of gloating over the fact that the enemy has been captured in some way, and all of them celebrating this sort of thing. And what I wanted to say something else about it. What is that? Okay. I don't know, I forget. Okay, this thing of missiles from the rear end, these giant insects are, this sort of thing. So the point is these, and there's a hierarchy itself. There's a bug hierarchy. When these people are caught there, the brain bug is going to come in there. The small bugs part, the middle bugs part, and that brain bug comes in, right? So it's the thing of, again, a dictator. See, a dictator coming in, the whole thing under control, that bug hierarchy there is strictly ordered. It's exactly like your Saddam Hussein. I mean, of course, it's pre-Saddam, but the point is it anticipates many of these things based on America's past contact. So the question is, the film is done like this. So you can see this whole thing on one side as an action film. See, like they keep on using the word fascist to describe it. It's, fascist is a term, which is very distant, right? Hitler and all that. But this is not simply fascism. It is actually about existing circumstances, talking about this primitive civilizations being destroyed and that sort of thing, and it's done with this tongue-in-cheek thing. It's done. So the question is, what kind of film is it? It's obviously satire, but the point is, he allows you to glory in the satire. He allows you to partake of the satire. So he does all this kind of plays all the games that are required. Okay, now we'll go to the last one, last slide. Okay, the question is, can you do this kind of satirical stuff? Can you do this kind of satirical stuff? Okay. And without your public, without your audience being, without you even caring about whether your audience should be, should be aware of it as satire, because it's too covered. I had the same thing with Kubrick's, Eyes Wide Shut. The satire is far too subtle. Okay, he's making fun of a certain bent of mind, his country and all that. But the question is, nobody seems to really caught on very strongly to this satire. I think, this is generally seen as satire, which was Starship Troopers, but not so stuff like Basic Instinct, okay? Is his use of violence and sex, is it justified aesthetically, is the question. Okay, now I want to, so it's a key question which I would like to ask. Have you seen Basic Instinct, all of you?
Yes, I did.
You've seen that Basic Instinct,
what
right?
kind of a satire would you
Sorry?
describe it as? What kind of a satire would you describe it as?
No, wait a minute. I want to ask you a question, right?
Okay, right.
Now, there are two solutions to the film, right?
Right, yes.
There are two solutions to the film, right? Okay, I just want to make this point. What are these two solutions to the film? Two women, right? Look, there are two women in the film, right? So what is this film doing actually? What is the explanation given? It's psychoanalytical explanation. What is the reason that this woman, the one who's killed is the woman, right? The one who's killed is the woman. I forget the name of the actress. the psychiatrist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
She's the one who's committed the murder this side, and she's also killed in a shootout or something, right?
Yeah,
Then it
she
turns, then
believes.
Sharon Stone in the last scene, Sharon Stone is shown picking up the ice pick. There's
Yeah,
an indication that the actual murderer is Sharon Stone, right?
yeah.
Okay. So what do you make of this? What do you make of that? You want to know why? You want to know what is satire? Okay. But the point is this, right? What is the important? What is the most important thing? I mean, to determine who's the murderer. Does anybody in the audience know? Can I explain this? Can you give me this idea to answer this question? What is the thing which tells you exactly who's the murderer? And it is Sharon Stone. Okay. How would you know that Sharon Stone is the murderer? No. You've seen her committing the murder.
She kills, yeah.
She kills. The point is this, right? The point is this. The very first scene begins with a murder committed by a woman.
Yeah.
Her face is covered,
Yep.
but we see the rest of her.
Yes.
Okay. Now the question is, both these women are subsequently shown in the nude in the movie, right?
Yes.
You should identify them from their bodies, not from their faces. He's making you look at their bodies.
I'm gonna have
Get
to
my
watch
point?
the film
Huh?
again.
Sorry?
I'm gonna have to watch the film again to figure that out.
Yeah. This is the thing. So the point is this, right? The point is this. He is deliberately making the audience. He has no faith that the audience will understand. Any of you understand my meaning of what I'm telling you? This. He has shown you the murder. He has shown you there are two women possible, right? He's give you some completely cock and bull psychiatric nonsense which Americans are very fond of. Something like Silence of the Lambs, right? He's making fun of that kind of psychiatric nonsense. Okay, it's gibberish, right? The kind of the psychiatric solutions that you have in Silence of the Lambs, it's complete nonsense. Okay, but the Americans are very fond of this kind of this kind of psychiatric explanations for everything. Something he put a what is that, some death's head moth or something is put inside. What is this nonsense? I mean, Silence of the Lambs is considered to be a classic. I mean, to say some death's head, I mean, this character who's a serial killer imported death's head's moth thing, so he can put it in the back of somebody's throat. I mean, look at that. It's so preposterous. But it's done serious. That film is serious. That film is very serious. But this guy doesn't do that. This chap is not serious. He knows, okay, that this entire psychiatric thing is bullshit. He knows that, right? So the point what he's doing is he's showing you the murder, covering up her face, and he's inviting you to identify the woman through her body. This is what he's doing actually. So if you watch the movie, that's why I said, if it is cut by the censors, if they don't show you the thing, this movie makes no sense at all. Okay, you have a look at it. You have a look at this film. This is my understanding of the movie. He is actually showing you the murder and then making a. I mean, you don't need when the audience has already seen the murder happening and they've seen the bodies of both the women. Okay, how do you? Why do you need a psychiatric solution at all? Right? You've seen it, right? So this is my sense. What he is doing is what this chap is doing is what Verhoeven is doing is he's having a good laugh at the audience. He'll play along with this. He will do this. He will also put in. I think, but gradually, my point is, then you do this. So I don't think anybody has seen this thing of this basic instinct this way. The way I'm saying it, right? It's not this is not the way anybody has seen basic instinct. In fact, if you've seen Roger Ebert is making what is this like two solutions? What is this two solutions to the film? What does it mean? How can you have one solution and have one more solution? I mean, all serious critics have given it bad reviews, but the point is making fun of the public. One of the things, as I said, America is a prudish society. Okay, you can't very well make this statement in public. You can't make this statement. You look at a body and identify her by the body, not by the. You can't do this because by and large, in all this sort of stuff, the face is the index of the person, right? Okay, face is the index of identity. What he's doing here is he's doing the opposite. He's removing the face has been covered with hair or whatever. You don't see her face at all. He's using the body as index, which goes along perfectly with the Dutch thing. He's making fun of the Americans, this refusal to refusal to look at the body, refusal to look at or rather, I mean, to see the naked body as an abstraction, right? Not as belonging to this person, not as belonging to that person, but as an abstraction. He's doing that. So he's making. In fact, I'll tell you, I read somewhere an interview with this guy, right? An interview with this fellow, and I think after Showgirls, they asked him, why is this? What have you done with this film? This guy, Showgirls was a film which I'm very fond of actually. He was, yeah, I like that film very much.
Can you please
They
talk
said,
about it?
okay, he said, what is this film about? The person who wrote the script tried to explain in feminist terms what it is about. Why did you make this movie, etc. So, Verhoeven, very simple. I like to look at naked women. So his answer was that he's not going to engage with any kind of intellectual stuff. It is for you to figure it out. I will not explain, kind of thing, right? So he's a very smart fellow. He's a very smart character. And basically, he's making fun of the public in some way, making fun of the audience. Unlike, what's his name, who just exploits them, what's his name, Roland Emmerich. He's having a good laugh at the expense of the audience. If they are smart enough, you can see this. I don't think anybody's caught on to this basic instinct, what I'm telling you. I've yet to read that this is the basic thing of basic instinct. It's a satire on the psychoanalytical nonsense that American thrillers are fond of using, right? This is the basic thing. So that this is my thing. I suggest you guys have a look at this film again, Basic Instinct, the uncut version, not the version which is aired in India, an uncut version, and look at the whole film. Very exploitative, thoroughly exploitative film. Okay, but I have a problem with this. He's too clever by half. That last film of his, which I didn't like at all, which was that. It's called Hollow Man. Hollow Man.
The Hollow Man. Yeah, yeah.
It's completely exploitative. This thing of even Basic Instinct, you don't have this media thing. Okay,
Yeah.
because it's a media thing you don't have. It's more straightforward in some ways. But the Hollow Man, I didn't like at all. Like, this doesn't work in any way. It's completely exploitative. There is nothing satirical in the film. I don't know. I think you go on with this thing of exploitation, violence and sex exploitation. I also think that something like Starship Troopers is also a little too violent. I get the feeling it's a little too violent, probably. I mean, if you keep on doing this, and then where is the satirical edge going to go? It gets completely blunted if you keep on doing this sort of thing, right? So this is my sense of Verhoeven. I will stop here. Okay, so it could be possible. I think after he left, after this, I think Hollow Man was a big, it was spectacular in terms of special effects. But I don't know what to make of the film in terms of it's not a successful film at all. So I would say Hollow Man is a failure. After that, he went to Europe and made movies. He gave up America, he went to Europe and made movies. I'm not very fond of his. I am not very fond of the Black Book. I'm not very fond of Hell. I think Hell is it.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not very fond of that. I don't like these movies. But the point is that in this period, okay, what is Anjan saying? It is true. The first scene, girls resemble. Yeah, yeah. See, there are only two possibilities, right? There are only two possibilities in this movie. One of those two has to be the murderer, right? Once there and both of them are shown to you, okay, you should be able to identify from the body of the person who the killer is. It doesn't matter. The psychiatric explanation is a nonsense. Actually, it doesn't make any sense. You're not even required to follow it in any way. Okay, he's just giving you a lot of sensation. He's doing this and he's having a good laugh at you that you look at the way, identify it, and don't bother about the story at all. Is what he's saying. He's having a good laugh. This is my understanding of the movie. Okay, so this is my sense of it. Any questions up to yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the question is that he's playing this game, right? And he's much too clever for a filmmaker, and so he's actually, I mean, you can see this, okay? So I mean, it's a filmmaker. He's a very knowing filmmaker. He's not somebody who's just exploiting. He's also very clever. He knows how to do this. He knows how to do that. He knows how to make political points. He's extremely wise. But the point is that they won't catch on to this. I think it's a kind of, what do you say? What is the word I would use? It's a kind of very pessimistic view on what kind of cinema, what kind of audience you've got, what kind of cinema is being produced. Very pessimistic view what is happening. Okay, so I mean that is why he's doing this. I don't know. I mean, see, I would say RoboCop, Starship Troopers. Okay, it's pretty clear. In Total Recall, you find that final action sequence, final action template, nothing at all in it. Okay, it doesn't account for anything at all. So the point is that he's doing this. He knows the cinema. He knows how to make movies. So this, I would say that Showgirls, there's one very interesting line in Showgirls. Okay, I've actually thought about it, made some notes, but I've forgotten. I don't have the notes here. Where this guy, played by I think John Cusack, no, who's the guy who plays the boss? What's his name?
I haven't watched Showgirls. I
Okay,
was reading about it.
Showgirls. He says, he says, I'm an MBA, which is something. It's called an MBA. It's called something completely worthless in the real world. I've got an MBA, which makes me fit to be. He says something like that. It's unfit. I mean, it's something. It's completely useless in the real world. Talks about an MBA like that. There is stuff there in that movie. What is the real world and all that? I mean, exactly what does it mean? So I've done some thinking. I don't have the exactly what I do. I've written about it as well, but I don't know what exactly I wrote about. I forgot. Okay. So I'll stop here. Please, any questions at all, I'll be happy to take. What questions? Anyone at all?
So I read somewhere that which one Showgirls was nominated as the worst film.
And I think he went and got it also.
Exactly. Yes.
He went and got it. That's the thing.
He did.
Yeah.
He received the award.
The glorified dance award. Yeah. Correct. He went and when he gave the worst picture award, he's the kind of guy who goes and collects it happily.
Yeah.
Okay. What does it tell you about him, right? Mostly when they give a worst picture award, you won't go, but this guy will go, right? He's perfectly happy to be called the worst picture of the year or some such thing. He gets the award, right? He's perfectly happy to do that. I mean, what does it tell you about his sense of the audience? What does it tell you? Okay, he's happy. Okay, he's not resentful. He knows very well the kind of movie he's making. He knows what kind of audience he's making movies for. He knows what happens in this movie setup is there is a liberal audience with politically correct leanings, okay, and there is this crass audience. Now the question is who is better or who is worse? We don't know. He's making movie for when the liberal, when it gets a little too much. See, I think Showgirls probably what he showed in Showgirls, I mean, simply nudity and that sort of thing, was far in excess of what American films show. Far in excess. Okay, it's not in the same league at all. And the point is, Americans are made very uncomfortable by this kind of, this kind of nudity, this kind of sex. Men extremely uncomfortable by it. They're not like Holland, right? Holland is a different kind of country. Americans are by and large made very more than violence they're able to stomach, but not this kind of stuff. Sex is something they're prudish about. They don't want to show it at all. They don't want to look at it. They feel, sort of besmirched by even watching this kind of stuff. By and large, it's not like watching pornography, which was watched secretly. When the mainstream movie shows this kind of stuff, right, they're made very uncomfortable. So actually, by showing this kind of stuff, he's also making them uncomfortable in some way, right? He knows Americans are made uncomfortable by this, so he's doing that. So that, and when he goes and collects this, he's a challenge to them. It's a kind of challenge to them. Right? I'm collecting the award best film. You can say whatever you like. I'm not going to explain myself. You figure out what you want about it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But the point is, by showing this kind of nudity, more than I think something like, I think this thing of, there's so much in Showgirls, there's so much nudity in Showgirls, that I'm pretty sure American audiences would have been made very, very, very uncomfortable by the film. Okay?
Right.
Mainstream audiences, liberal audiences, so that they respond by writing nasty stuff. Okay. So I mean that discomfort which it causes. I mean people, among mainstream film watchers, right? They are not watching movies anonymously. They're watching in the company of their families, not children perhaps, but wife and. So the question is, they're made very, very. So the question is that itself of making. It's a kind of discomfort, It's a public discomfort you're inducing in your audience. After all, so the question is, watching this movie itself, making such a sleazy movie, makes you so uncomfortable. You're actually in some way provoking them in some sense, right? Look at this movie, and if I put in something, let us see how much you can take. Okay, almost no good. I think it's definitely an excellent film. Very few, American types, liberal types would be able to stomach something like Joker. So I would say I didn't put it here because again, a number of movies you can't have too many. But Showgirls is I would take it very seriously as I'll put it up. In fact, whatever I've written, I'll put it up on the thing. What my points about Showgirls are. Okay.
Although the film actually made a lot of money as a after, like, it made a lot of money in DVD rental.
And it's been
Far
revived
more
in some
money
way.
than the theater run. Like 100 million to
It
26
made huge
million.
amounts. And yeah, so the point is DVD you watch alone, right?
Yeah,
You
right.
buy the thing. This is the thing, right? Americans wouldn't be caught, audiences wouldn't be caught in a auditorium watching the movie with other people. Okay, you're embarrassed. Even Indians we are. Okay, we don't want to be caught watching a porn film or explicit sex film, right? We don't want to be. We feel embarrassed when we see certain things, right? This sort of thing. It's the same thing with conservative countries. They don't like to be caught in the mainstream thing watching this stuff. But watching privately a DVD or something is a completely different ball game. You're watching privately, you're watching in a different thing, you're watching surreptitiously. That is a completely different thing. So you could say that what's his name, Verhoeven is playing with this thing, making fun of this. Okay, have I been convincing? As my explanation for Verhoeven reasonably convincing? Okay, anyway, any further questions?
So, which is your favorite film? Is it Showgirls from his?
No, I know I liked this thing. Obviously, I liked his Dutch film, Turkish Delight, one of my favorites. Then I would put Starship Troopers. I'd put RoboCop. Sugars also. It's all right. Sugar. I don't like many other stuff. I'm not that fond of what do you say, Basic Instinct. In the sense, it's too surreptitious. This joke is, I think it's too veiled. It is too thing. And the point is, nobody will catch on to it. See, somebody has to catch on. Right? Somebody has to catch on to it and have a good laugh. It can't be only the director laughing. This is the problem, right? The problem with Verhoeven is he's having a good laugh, but nobody else, often very few people share that laughter. And that can become a problem. If it works, I mean, there are still Starship Troopers, there are plenty. Robocop, there are plenty. Showgirls also, I think there are enough. But I'm not so sure that that the same thing would hold good for Basic Instinct. So Basic Instinct, I think this is, I mean, if you see this, whatever my interpretation I've given, if you accept that interpretation, and watch the movie again, then you'll realize the whole thing is a big laugh on the audience. He's making fun of the audience. Okay? Okay, I'll stop here. Any other question? All right. Okay, thank you. I
Thank
guess
you
no
so
other
much.
question. Okay? Thanks.